Sufyan Sharahmi. Welcome to Tanakunal TV. And tonight we're going to discuss the Somali diaspora. The word diaspora is termed to mean individuals who were chased away from their country, literally beggars or people who don't have any home to go. So the word in itself is negative. The Somali population today is estimated to be around 30 million individuals and even more. So that 30 million individuals or 30 million in population, half of them are now living outside of the Somali country. Therefore, half of them are considered to be diaspora. Well, also, almost in every given country in the world, there are Somali refugees, asylum seekers, or if we call them all together, diaspora living in it. So you understand that our country is suffering a hemorrhage or exodus of Somali citizens outside of the country. And that is not good for the country and definitely not good for the Somali population or the Somali culture. Now, you understand that sometimes, or most of the times, if you were to meet someone who is willing or wanted to go outside of the country, that is to say abroad of Somalia, and you ask them why they wanted to travel abroad or to the Western world, they always would have an excuses. And these excuses are included, but not limited to, that they will say money reasons, that I wanted to make money, build a house, or buy a good car, or have a better standard of living. Some of them will say an education. Others might say a passport, and so forth and so on. So these are the subjectives or ideas that we're going to look into it to see if they are really correct or if what they say is true. But before I do that, I'm going to explain the process from point A to point P. That is to say, from Somalia to the end of their journey, that is Western world. Now, if almost, let us say, 100 individuals, 100 Somalis who are seeking to go to abroad, live from Somalia, and they want to go out to that end place, Western world, half of that 100 individuals will probably be stagnant in neighboring countries. That is to say, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the likes. And the reason is because when they come outside of the country, they realize that it's not really easy to travel. Or the idea they had from in the Western world or about the Western world changes dramatically. And they realize they made a mistake, so they stay in these countries or they go back to the country. The other 50 will try to continue their journey. And they go and some of them might end up being in prison, in jail, or die in the process to the desert in these African countries. A very small number of the 100 individuals who left the country would probably reach somewhere in the shores of Africa and therefore be able to go to exact location where they want to go. End up somewhere in Western world. So after that, what happens? Is the dream, the excuses they have, are they real? Are they going to become reality? Or those are hoax and non-existence? These are the things that we want to dissect. And with your help, I want to explain these to you. Now, number one, about the money. Excuses most of the individuals would say to you or to us is that they want to make more money. So the question is, if you go abroad, are you going to make more money than had you stayed in Somalia? Now, to understand that, the answer of that question, let us look around us. And to look around us, what I want to say is that you figure out or you calculate and configure in your mind how many individuals that you know, be it your tribe, friends, relatives, neighbors that you know, how many of them that have money made their money inside Somalia? And how many of them made that money from abroad or brought back money from abroad? The answer is very obvious. I'm sure none of them, individuals that you know, none of them brought back money from abroad. Almost all of them, entirely all of them, made their money in Somalia. So the answer is that if you wanted to make money, stay in your country. Your country will give you a better opportunity to become rich and to be wealthy. So that is out of the way. That question is settled. The answer is that you're not going to make money abroad, so stay in your country. Let us move to the next question. The excuse was that better living. And better living, what they meant to say is that beside the money is to get a good car, good housing, and things like that. Every country has streets built, high rises, and things like that. But they're not yours. They're for someone else. You're renting. So I'd rather have a small dench house in my country that belongs to me than to rent a high rise somewhere at the end of the world, which will not be useful to me and it's not mine. And which I'm going to be forced to work day in, day out to pay the rent, a very huge rent. So that in itself is not really beneficial. What about education? We understand all that, when you go abroad, different countries, you might learn their languages and you might go to school. But the education in abroad and the education in Somalia are exactly identical. We study same math, same geography, same history, a little bit of variation. We study our history, they study their history. Math, when you study math, you study algebra, geometry, calculus, and things like that. If you study physics, you study physics. Biology is biology. To become a doctor in Somalia, it's like exactly to become a doctor in Germany or in Canada or in America. There is no difference. A little bit of high tech, you can learn that faster. So the education, you'd rather be educated and stay in your country than go abroad and seek education and destroy your entire life. Because, as I would explain later on, there are negatives in the other side. Now we're only focusing what the excuses that most of the people who want to migrate abroad would use it to justify for them to leave our country and to go to a different country. Now, what else would they say? Well, nothing else, usually. A passport maybe. And passport, the reason they say that is because they see a lot of Somalis who return to Somalia and carrying passports, so maybe they speak better English than they do, and they are given positions of the government, which actually is problematic, and which we have discussed in my earlier conversations or videos, and which I would like you to watch to see how that is what destroys literally our country. But passport will not help you out, so it is not good that either. Now, these are the excuses that most migrants use to justify for them to go abroad and to travel to outside country. Now, we have understood, and I have explained to you that these excuses are not correct. Now, what we're going to do is that we're going to move to the different side and look the migrants who are going abroad from a different angle, the real life. Because when you move to a different country, you're going to continue your life. You're going to have a family, wife, children, and you're going to continue to grow both intellectual and physical. So are those considered at the beginning? Do we really think what's going to happen to our family, our children, and our mental capacity? No, we don't think often. And these are the things that I want to show you also as a negative side to the immigrants who migrate to different countries. We all have seen children return to Somalia from abroad, and those are brought back to Somalia, the children I mean, are brought back to Somalia to rehabilitate, meaning to make them more Somali, more Muslim, and more inclined or aligned with the Somali culture. That is to say that when you go abroad, have a family and children, most likely, almost most likely, or 90% of the time, the children you have in these countries are not going to be like the Somali children that we understand and know. The difference is that these children are inculcated or assimilated into a different culture. So they become part of the country they were born to, meaning that you as a Somali person will lose your offspring. Meaning again that you as a Somali person, whether you are female or male, will not be able to claim your roots back to Somalia, unless of course you brought them back. So they're not like Somali children. The other factor is that studying religion and culture are lacking in these countries, because every country has their own culture, their own religion, and their own way of doing things. So maybe they maybe claim to be Muslim, but that is as far as they go most of the times, unless of course you're like a person. Now, that is a negative. The wife or the marriage that exists in abroad is not the marriage that you know in Somalia. It is totally different. You know, you are a man or a woman, but the functionality of a man and woman in abroad is different than one in Somalia. There are no lines, there are no categories, and there are no appropriation of duties. Everything is mixed. And no one has more power than the other person. That is a negative aspect. What is going to happen also to the individual who migrates to abroad is that little by little, you yourself will be assimilated to that culture. You're going to become one of them. You've seen people who came back from these countries and they act differently. Their way of thinking is different. And especially if these individuals are educated or went to the education system of these countries, they totally have a different way of thinking and different way of seeing the world that you will live in. And that is very important for us to look and not to lose it. Because when you have someone who came back from abroad and that person claims to be Somali, then if you look really deeper into that person, you will understand that person is neither Somali, not something that we know. So they're different. So you're losing your personality. You've been washed from as a Somali and being, as we say in the computer world, uploaded to different information, a different personality, a different way of thinking. And that is why my earlier segment, when we're talking about a passport or someone who holds a foreign passport to become one of the Somali leaders is not good for our country, because that person is not really Somali. He's being uploaded as a computer to different culture, different way of thinking, and different philosophy. So, as I have said before, the negatives outweigh the benefit. And in fact, there are no benefits to going abroad. So, my good friends, these are hard times for our country. Half of the entire Somali population are out of Somalia. Our country is bleeding because the population is going out. We have thought and believed that to go abroad is better. I've traveled to many countries and I've seen many Somali youngsters, both male and female, stagnated in these countries and waiting an opportunity to go to abroad. And some of them stayed in these countries for almost 5 to 10 years. My fellow Somalis, before I conclude this video, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. One, before you make any decision to go abroad, please analyze. Think hard and use the pros and cons to weigh the benefit and the negative consequences that you will face if you go outside of your country. Your country is great. Somalia is a great country. There are peace now, there are functioning government, and there are future, very bright future ahead of us. Our country is rich, our country is wealth, and our country is one of the best in the world. So therefore, stay in your country. Don't hurt your country, because if you were to travel and all of us go out of Somalia, we will be hurting our country. To be patriotic is to be a great person and to have a self-esteem. So I love you all. I'm going to ask you to stay in your country again. Good night. Until the next segment, please subscribe my channel so you can be informed next. Thank you very much and good night.